Well, mid-March is an ideal time to be getting small fruits in the ground, and one of the easiest ones to grow, of course, is strawberries. And what we're doing here, this is an old strawberry bed that we renovated last fall. You may remember that we sowed Austrian winter peas into it. Those have been tilled under, and now we've put out a stake and string, and I'm hilling the bed up for good drainage, which is essential with strawberries, and Steve's coming along behind me, just tamping the sides down to help firm them up a little bit. And the idea with strawberries, of course, is that you need to have them out in full sun in order for them to bear well. You can grow them in shade as a ground cover, but they will not bear nearly as much fruit as if they're in full sun. You want to make sure that you rototill the soil to a depth of about 12 to 16 inches and work some fertilizer in ahead of time. Now, we worked in some manure and Austrian winter peas on ours ahead of time, so it should have good fertility. But just to give you a guideline, if you're using a combination fertilizer such as triple 10 or triple 13, if you'll just put about a ½ pound per 100 square feet down before planting, that should give the berries plenty of fertility. Now, we've healed them up because the essential thing with strawberries is that they do have good drainage. When you get a bundle of strawberries in, they won't look like much. This is from a mail order company, but you do want to inspect the root system. Make sure that the roots have a nice white appearance. If they've turned brown or yellowed looking, it could be they have rotted in storage. These are very healthy looking. Now I'm going to put these back in plastic because we're not going to plant those just today. And if you get your strawberries in and it's not a good day for planting, if it's going to be really cold out, like the day we're taping this show, you can store them in the refrigerator or keep them someplace cool and moist. You don't want to just leave them in the house. You can hill them in outdoors in some sand in a protected place. Now, before you plant, you want to soak them in a bucket of water. That does two things for you. That helps the roots to soak up moisture, and you want to do this for maybe just a ½ hour before planting. And it helps separate them out as you get ready to plant them out in the garden. And a bundle of plants usually has 25 plants in it. That's enough to plant about 30 feet of row. So that'll give you a good idea. For one family, for fresh eating, that's probably plenty of strawberries. But if you want to do jam and things like that, you probably need several bundles. Make sure that you get 3 varieties to spread your season out. 3 of our favorites here in the Oklahoma Gardening Studio are Early Glow, which is a wonderful tasting early strawberry, then Sure Crop as a mid-season strawberry, and finish up with Late Glow, which tastes like Early Glow but comes on a little later in the season. You still have about a 4-week picking window with those 3 varieties as a lineup. Now, the ones that we're going to plant here, you want to make sure that you have the right depth. And I've got a little example here, and this is the classic illustration that you usually see in books on small fruits or in catalogs. And we've lined out a ruler here, and we want to emphasize that the growing point of a strawberry is right here at the crown. You can see a tiny little tuft of leaves right there. And you want to make sure that you don't bury that in the soil. If this ruler were your soil line and you buried that beneath the ground, the plant might smother and never grow. Likewise, if you plant it too shallow and you have the roots exposed, if these roots dry out up here, these roots down here might take up water, but they'll die up above ground, and you won't get good growth up above. So you want to plant it right at the soil line with the crown just above it and the roots just below. So let's get started putting a few of these in. I'm not going to do all of them just for the sake of time, but I do want to give you some tips on planting so you'll have success. Now, notice we have hilled the soil up pretty well. You want to plant your strawberries about 12 inches apart. Fortunately, a lot of trowels are right about that length, and so you've got a calibrator right here. And what you want to do is make sure that you don't bend the roots around. When I used to work on a strawberry farm, we'd have a term called J-rooting, where if you planted these and these were bent around, they won't grow very well. It's actually better to trim them off and plant them so that all the roots can spread out and be nice and deep. Now, you normally don't want to stand around or sit around like I am and have these exposed quite like this, but that's basically how you want to get them planted. I'm going to go ahead and put these in because I don't want to leave those out exposed. And just lay your trowel down, tip it up, get these in, and go on to the next one. Now, if you're doing these by the acre, they use a planting machine to get it done. This basically gives you a tip of how to go about it. Main thing is leave that crown above the soil line, and then follow up if you want with 1 cup of warm water and a little bit of fertilizer mixed in as a starter solution to get them going. Now, even though we're not past our last season of frost, you can go ahead and plant strawberries. It will not hurt them. Sub-freezing temperatures, however, could cause damage, and so if you get these in and we're still going to have some weather down in the teens, you might want to keep them in a protected spot for a day or two. The last thing I want to mention is over here. This is some sunrise strawberries that we've had in here for a number of years. This will probably be their last year in the studio garden, and then we'll renovate this bed. And in mid-December, after we'd had several good frosts, we mulched over these with pine straw. And this is St. Patrick's Day weekend, and that's the rule of thumb we give people for the date to remove the mulch from your strawberries. Take a look at these. They look nice and green and healthy. The mulch has helped hold in the moisture through the winter time, and they're ready to get up and grow. Now, one tip I want to give you on strawberries that are already established is do not feel tempted to fertilize them in the spring. If you do and you put on nitrogen, all the growth will go into foliage, and your fruit that does develop will not be as tasty, and it will be soft in texture. And so wait until after harvest and then put on a light sprinkling of fertilizer before you get going. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these strawberries in, and a little later on we want to give you some tips on planting blueberries in the garden, because that's another fruit that you can plant that requires no pesticides and very little care once they're established.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.